Greetings, students. Let's take your seats and get those books out because today we are going to be talking about team building. That's right, in this lesson we are going to be going over the Buster team. You have heard the name thrown around, seen it mentioned on the Wiki, Reddit, or YouTubes, but what is a Buster team and how do you build a good one? Well, there are two different paths that you can take with the Buster team. The first one is your standard basic Buster team. This is going to be one of the most straightforward team comps in the game. This is also one of the easier early game comps to help you plow through the story's early stages. The goal of the basic Buster team is simple. Load up as many Buster card heavy berserkers and servants as you can. You can check out the previous episode of School of Chaldea for how card decks work. As you will be running with a very large number of Buster cards, it is highly likely that you will be able to pull off Buster chains every turn, bringing massive damage as quick as possible to burn down everything in front of you. The upside of this team comp that it is fairly easy to put together even with low star servants and does not rely on support servants. If you are looking for a very straightforward, quick, simple team, this is going to be the team to run. Now, as with most things, there are downsides to this too good to be true team. You will be running berserkers, you will need to kill them before they kill you. This team doesn't often have any form of support, as a lot of the servants that would fall into this team are very greedy in terms of buffs. It's often walled by enemies that can use dodge, invulnerability, or defense buff spam. You will not be gaining too much in the way of Noble Phantasm gauge, so you will need to rely on your normal attacks. Now that we have talked about the pros and the cons of this, let's talk about how to put this team together. As stated prior, this is going to be a very simple team, and you are going to want to stack as many quick arts Buster servants into one team as you can. The goal is to clear every wave with a Buster chain, so we are going to want to find servants that fall into that 3 Buster card deck format. Thankfully, most berserkers fit the bill, and they do 1.5 times damage to most things in the game. Heracles, Lubu, Kiyohime, Eric Bloodaxe, and Darius all fit into this role splendidly and are fairly easy to get, with most of the list here being 3-star or below, and Heracles coming from the tutorial roles. This should be one of the easier lineups of servants to acquire. Heracles is one of the absolute stars of the basic Buster team due to his self-attack buff as well as 2 defensive skills to keep him on the board and bringing that Buster pain. Not to mention, he does pretty good in the damage department as well. Lubu is an absolute powerhouse of a berserker as well, with the ability to increase his own attack, defense, and NP damage. Kiyohime and Eric Bloodaxe are both very solid berserkers with AoE Noble Phantasms. But what if you don't have and or want to use berserkers? Well, there are other options as well. 4-star Ruler Martha, who is coming with the first summer banners, is a very viable fit, as she is rocking the 3 Buster card deck as well as a ruler type advantage. Fergus, the 3-star saber, also has a quick arts Buster deck and is a very solid 3-star saber. This is not to say that you cannot bring a servant with 2 Buster cards to your Buster team. It just lowers the chance of you being able to continuously pull off Buster chains for increased damage. If you are lucky enough with the gacha to have servants like Nightingale, Ku Alter, Kintoki, or Beowulf, they are also great additions to the basic Berserker team. I mean, basic Buster team. Now that we've went over the basic Buster team, let's take it to the next level, the Buster Crit team. The downsides to this one is it does have a little bit of a weaker start, but it does shine late game and is one of the strongest teams for clearing challenging content. As the name suggests, this team is going to center around generating a large number of crit stars and unleashing them in a devastating flurry of Buster crit cards. So let's look at the weaknesses first. Team damage output is often centered around one servant, and if you lose that servant, you are going to be in a bit of a pinch. This team is more dependent on limited high star units and CEs. The team is also very reliant on continuously generating stars and buffs, and any deviation can spell doom for this team. Now, I know this does sound a little bit of doom and gloom, but trust me, my students, the risk versus reward is fantastic. Not only does this team have the highest potential burst damage of any team composition, it also tends to synergize with most of the effective supports in the game, making the overall consistency of this team very solid. Next one, big numbers. How are you going to flex on people on the internet if you can't put out big numbers? Not only that, but this does bring very consistent damage once you have a critical star engine in place. With that out of the way, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this team. This is going to be a little bit different than the previous team in that we are going to have 3 very set roles. You have your support, you have your crit star engine, and you have your buster damage dealer. For support, you're going to want to aim for a Waver or a Hans Christian Andersen. Now, some people will call Hans a discount Waver. However, for this team, he actually fits much better with his increased crit damage, ability to generate stars, and star generation on his Noble Phantasm. Waver, however, is very straightforward with his damage cut to keep your damage dealer alive and his targetable crit damage increase and party-wide attack increase. Oh, and I forgot to mention the increase in Noble Phantasm gauge. That's also a nice little benefit there. If you would like to see a little more on what Hans Christian Andersen can do, you can check out my video Ballin' on a Budget, Hans Christian Andersen style. Now that we have support out of the way, let's talk about the crit star generators. You have a few options here and a few servants that can work as a bit of a hybrid crit star engine / damage dealer. Jack the Ripper, Cursed Arm Hassan, and Fuma for hard star generations are staples. However, you can run the likes of Leonidas for his ability to create 25 stars with his Noble Phantasm, as well as the ability to keep the damage off of your primary damage dealer via taunt. Oh, and he also comes with a team-wide buster increase as well. And while he doesn't have 3 quick cards like the other 3 mentioned assassins, he does come with 2 quick cards and 2 buster cards, allowing him to create crit stars as well as take part in those buster chains for increased damage. If you are looking for just a hard crit star generator, Jack the Ripper is going to be your best, very staple crit engine. Cursed Arm Hassan and Fuma can both be interchanged. Cursed Arm Hassan is a very good budget Jack the Ripper and can create instant stars. So now that we have our star generators out of the way, now for the damage dealer, the star of the show. This servant is going to need to fit a few criteria. Either they need to be able to increase their star absorb or their crit damage without help from others. Now, we have a few servants that can fit this bill. Quite a few, actually. So let's start at the top. Gilgamesh, definitely one of the top contenders on this list as he already has highest star absorb rate with his Archer star weight. But he also has a high ranking independent action skill providing him with more crit. Not only that, but he also has a skill to scoop up any stars that he may miss from that star weight. Also, due to his high hit count, he can also take part in providing additional stars as well, alleviating some of the stress on your critical star engines. Jeanne d'Arc Alter comes in next and is one of the pinnacles of the crit buster team. She comes with not only a star absorb skill, but also a crit damage increase and a buster increase, and she can increase her own attack. Feed this girl stars and watch things melt. Lancelot, not only can he create a ton of stars, but he can follow up the next turn by absorbing all of those stars and potentially triggering his own buster brave chain with his 3 buster cards. Not only that, being a berserker, he's going to inherently do extra damage anyways. Speaking of berserkers, Minamoto no Raikou is also a very fantastic candidate for this spot as well, and not only does she come with a star Star Absorb, but she comes with a Buster Noble Phantasm as well, allowing you to AoE down weaker enemies and follow up with a crit Buster Chain to finish off the boss. Also, you have 4-star Saber Rama, who excels at utilizing crit stars, and when teamed with a Hans or Leonidas, he is an absolute single target monster. And the list goes on, but these are just some of the primary damage dealers for the Buster crit team. In terms of CEs, you are going to want to target Fragments of 2030. This passively increases the amount of stars that you get per turn. This is kind of a no-brainer for this team. However, if you were around during the Fate Zero event and you were able to get his rightful place CE, this is also a very fantastic option as well, as this will generate stars and it will start you off with an increased NP gauge at the beginning of the turn. These CEs you will want to put on your crit star generator as well as your supports. For your damage dealers, you're going to want to focus on the crit damage that they will be dealing, so the CEs that you are going to want to be targeting are Victor of the Moon and Knight's Pride. Victor of the Moon provides you with increased Buster damage as well as crit damage, and Knight's Pride will just really bump that critical damage through the roof. So overall, students, for the new player who's just starting out, the basic Buster team is going to be a very solid starting step. I hope that this lesson has taught you a little bit about how to build a fantastic Buster team. I would like to take this moment to thank all of the Patreons that help to support this channel. You guys are the top of the class. If you would like to join them, the link is down below in the description. And if you would like to support the channel, just hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, drop me a like and a comment, and class is dismissed.